Your mom nicely. All right.
Nah. My mother.
All right. So can you see the screen? All right, Srinidhi, take it away. Let's start with the Baba prayer.
O Parvati God, the preserver and protector of all, you are without beginning and without end, non-dual, beyond comparison and none can measure you. You're without color, without expression, without form, and without attributes. You're unlimited and unfathomable. You're beyond imagination and conception. You're eternal and imperishable. You're invisible, and none can see you but with eyes divine. You always were, you always are, and you always will be. You're everywhere, and you are in everything. Or you're also beyond everywhere and beyond everything. You're in the firmament and in the depths. You're manifest and unmanifest, on all planes and beyond all planes. You're in the three worlds and also beyond the three worlds. You're imperceptible and independent. You're the creator of the Lords, the knower of all minds and hearts. You're omnipotent and omnipresent. Your knowledge infinite, power infinite, and bliss infinite. You're the ocean of knowledge, all-knowing, infinitely knowing, know the past, present, and future. Your knowledge itself. You're all-immersible, eternally beloved. Your souls of souls, one with infinite attributes. You're the trinity of truth, the knowledge of bliss. You're the source of truth, the ocean of love. You're the ancient one, highest of the high. You're Prabhu and Parameshwar. You're the beyond God and beyond God also. You're Parabrahma, Allah, Ilahi, Yazdan, our Mazda, and God the Beloved. You're named Isa, the only one worthy of worship.
Thank you, Srinidhi. Ayan, you want to do the prayer of repentance?
Sure. We repent, O God, most merciful, for all our sins, for every thought that was false or unjust or unclean, for every word spoken that ought not to have been spoken, for every deed done that ought not to have been done. Repent for every deed, word, and thought inspired by selfishness, every deed, word, and thought inspired by hatred. We repent most especially for every lustful thought, for every lustful action, for every lie, and for all hypocrisy, for every promise given but not fulfilled, and for all slander and backbiting. Most especially also, we repent for every action that has brought ruin to others, and for every word and deed that has given others pain, and for every wish that pain should befall others. In your unbounded mercy, we ask you to forgive us, O God, for all these sins committed by us, and to forgive for our constant failures, and to think and speak and act according to your will.
Soham, do you want to do the last one?
Sure. Let's see. Well, what's the last one?
The beloved God prayer.
Oh, beloved God. Okay. Beloved God, help us all to love you more and more, and still yet more, till we become worthy of union with you. Help us all to hold fast to Baba's Dham until the very end. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai.
All right, thank you guys. So, I want to ask, I know Ayan, you were not there last week, and so Miss Soa Soham, I believe Shireen and Meher are going to join us a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
and yeah, this might not be, I might be here for, this might be a 1 week I'm in.
That's fine, no problem. We're just trying to catch you guys up. So you guys are more than welcome to watch all the videos that are being recorded and on YouTube. But this is an important month because we are covering the topic of what, guys? Srinidhi? You're on mute, sweetheart.
It's the accident on May 26th. 24th.
Yes. So Baba had a major accident in the United States in 1952, May 24th. So this is the whole topic.
By car?
Yes. So I really encourage you guys to watch the other videos so you have a little bit of continuity, but we also need to move on because next week I believe there'll be a guest that we're hoping to secure. So what we did, and I'm going to, okay, when I present my screen, do you see you guys and the screen, or I just want to make sure. Okay, I think this is better. Okay, so where we left off last time was that Baba was basically, in a nutshell, Baba and his Mandali were trying to go from Myrtle Beach to Ojai, right, in California via road. And even though one of the people had given them a straight route, so there were two cars, right? One set of the cars went ahead in a straight route, and then Baba wanted a scenic route. So what happened is that we got to the place where Baba had just had his accident, right? So I would like us to kind of just go back a little bit. I'm going to show you guys, Ian, to catch you guys up. So they were going from Myrtle Beach all the way to Ojai, which is, in California. And the accident happened here in Prague, Oklahoma. So if you look at it, if you draw a line through, it's essentially the center of the United States, right? If you split a line from top to bottom, the accident happened exactly in the center of the US, right? Or even east to west, right? So this is, Baba's way. I mean, I don't know exactly what the significance is, but it's pretty cool that it happened right in the middle of our country, right? And Baba had been saying for some time, a long time ago, about the accident happening. So here we are. We actually came up to, let's go back a little bit and refresh. So everyone's taking turns reading. So I would encourage you guys. So Srinidhi, I'd like to have you start. Can we read from this slide just to kind of go back and recap? Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Accident. At 10:15, as they came over one hill, Elizabeth saw a car coming toward them on the wrong side of the road. She slowed down in hope that as soon as the driver saw her, he would turn to avoid them, but he failed to stop and collided with their car at full speed. Just as the accident occurred, Elizabeth remembered Baba raising his left hand, pointing to the oncoming car, as if he were somehow directing the whole affair. Baba was thrown out of the car and landed on his back in a muddy ditch on the side of the road. Blood flowed from his nose, which was broken. One arm and leg were fractured. Mara and Meru were also thrown from the car. Mara had a deep gash in her forehead, and Meru's wrists were fractured and sprained. Elizabeth was pinned behind the steering wheel with both arms, her collarbone and 11 ribs broken. Manny, who had been dozing in the back seat, was the only one unhurt. According to the police, accident report filed at the time for insurance purposes. The accident occurred in Lincoln County, Oklahoma, on Route 62, 600 feet from the East Country Road near Meeker, Oklahoma, approximately 10 miles west from the Prague. The driver of the other car, Anthony Joseph Palmieri, 24 at the time, described how the accident occurred. I was going east in my 52 Mercury sedan, when I saw a truck stop in front of me. So I slowed down, but when I was doing this, my brake froze on one side, which gave the car a tendency to turn left. In doing so, made a U-turn across the highway and off the road. Then a Nash came at pretty good speed and hit me in the rear.
Go ahead, continue. But basically, this is what happened, right? So he drew a drawing. So he was going one way, and then he turned towards the left, and then it got hit, right? So this is that guy's car, and there was a mail truck, and this was a farm where in front of it, where it happened. Do you want to continue reading, and then we'll have somebody else read the next slide?
According to Elizabeth's account, our party was on a motor tour from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina to California. I was driving my Nash Statements along the open road toward Oklahoma City. Having passing Prague a few miles back, suddenly I saw a car coming at me at very high speed. Towards me. It swerved from its right side of the road in my front car for no reason that I could see. I put on my brakes with all force and gave the other car as much room as possible and kept my car far to the right-hand side of the road as I could without going into the ditch.
Okay, thank you. Oh, how about this last part and then we'll have somebody read.
The car was hit very badly on the left front of the other car. I can only think that the other car was out of control. As I later was told, the car was owned by an XGI with an artificial leg.
All right, thank you, Srinidhi. Any questions so far? If not, Ayan, would you like to read next?
Sure.
Okay.
It was true that Palmery, is that how you say it?
I guess so. Palmine.
Palmery was a veteran of the Korean War. One of his legs had been amputated. He was driving a special car with handbrakes and an accelerator. This was the first day he had used the car. With him in the car were his wife, Billy, and her mother, Miss Jane Hanson, both of Oklahoma City. They were on their way to Arkansas to pick up Billy's son by a previous marriage, who spent the summers with his mother and grandmother in Oklahoma. The accident occurred directly in front of a small farm by a
Czechoslovakian. Czechoslovakian.
Whatever. Immigrant named Stanley J. Muka. The postman had just put the mail in his mailbox. The truck that Palmery saw stopped. When Mocha heard the accident and rushed outside, he brought blankets to cover Mehera and Baba. No one in Palmery's car was injured. Mrs. Hanson leapt out of the car. She went to Mehera and wiped her face with a handkerchief. Elizabeth's car had gone off the road into Muchka's driveway. It was a terrible sight, Muchka later remembered. Miss Hanson also said, there was blood everywhere. It was horrible. Meanwhile, a man taking his pregnant wife to the Prague clinic for a checkup drove past. Because the town had only one ambulance, he sent it back, along with the hearse.
Mm-hmm. So, for those of you who didn't join last time, there was another car in which Saroj, one of Baba's Mandali, was driving. But every time throughout the whole trip, right, they kept lagging behind because this was an older car. So again, at this point, Saroj was, I would say, I think 10 miles or 10 minutes behind. So who wants to read the next part? Sia, would you like to read?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Saroj's car had not yet appeared on the scent. Due to the heat, Saroj had stopped along the way. Enjoy a cool drink. It was stocky. I can't see it properly.
Uh-oh. Okay, anybody else wants to read for her?
If you're on a phone, you can zoom in.
Okay, Soham, that's okay. Why don't you read and then until Sia figures it out.
Okay, where was she at?
It was a stop that he would regret for the rest of his life.
It was a stop that he would regret for the rest of his life. When their car came upon the accident 15 or 20 minutes ago, they were shocked by the sight. Rano, Goher, Delia, and Kitty jumped from the car and ran to Baba. Goher was dazed and began going back and forth between Mehera and Baba frantically. Baba indicated to Rano by hand signs that his arms and legs had been injured. Delia unpacked her small pillow and placed it under Baba's head. The anguish of that moment is unforgettable, said Delia later. Baba's face with blood pouring from his head, his eyes just staring straight ahead as if into unfathomable distances. He made no sound nor sigh, just lay there motionless. Elizabeth was in the car, doubled over the wheel. Her first question was, is he alive? Baba was lying on the soft dirt, bathed in blood. He had foretold that the soil of America wanted his blood, and in his infinite mercy, he was spilling it there. That is, oh my God, that's crazy.
You want to stop there? You guys want to discuss it maybe a little bit?
No, I'll finish it.
Okay.
It was as if a knife had this is very descriptive. If little kids can get scared of this, Mom.
I think you guys can handle it.
No, I mean I can. I'm just.
It's okay. Keep going. I think
Okay.
if you guys are uncomfortable, tell me now.
Okay.
Is anybody uncomfortable? We're okay. I think this is important, guys, because I think you guys are old enough to understand the significance, right? Like we talked about this last time. When we get any pain or anything like that, we kind of scream and cry out. But Baba, who had gone through so much, didn't say anything. Sia, you have something to say?
Yeah, actually, it's a little, I think people can handle it because some people watch very violent movies.
Yes, I agree. If you've seen Bahubali, you can handle this. Who has seen Bahubali? There you go. You guys are good.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna finish it.
Yep.
It was as if his knife had impaled the heart of age, as it watched the living Christ bleeding helplessly on that Midwestern road. Okay. Oh, America, I cried. You thirsted for his blood, now quench your thirst. But remember to remind future generations, along with his blood, he also brought it and left there the divine treasure.
Mm-hmm.
Who's age?
Age, just like the age. So this is being written by Bhauji, right? This entire Lord Meher series, he wrote it after Baba dropped his body. I believe he was literally like sequestered in his room for, I think, like almost a year. And then he came out with all of this stuff, right? Like he researched and wrote all of this. So at this point, it's just him kind of like, the narrator coming in and saying something. You see that a lot in books, right? So he's saying, age listened and heard his silent message in reply from his beloved. So this is where this whole, these two is kind of the author's, I guess, take on it, right? Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Age listened and heard the silent message in reply from his beloved. My blood shed only for those who continue to remember it and who experience love for the beloved. My suffering will be their pain, which will always keep them with me. The blood is a sign of my love for the world. America is mine, and by suffering for it, I am giving it love, so that it may keep its head bowed to me.
All right. So I want to stop there. Soham, what you read is quite deep, right? So I want to discuss it for a little bit. First of all, before we continue, Meher and Shaveen, I don't see Shaveen, but hi, Meher. Does anybody have any comments? Srinidhi, Sia, Soham, Ayan, Sahana? Sia, go ahead. You can just speak up. You don't need to raise your hand.
Basically, why?
What was that?
So basically, my question is, why would this happen in the first place?
Okay, that's a good question. Anybody have an answer?
Most likely because Baba had to do universal suffering, kind of like what Jesus did.
Anybody else? Do you agree, disagree, have another opinion? Sahana, what do you think?
I have another one.
Yeah, go ahead, Soham.
Because America isn't a really it's not a very good country.
What do you mean?
I mean, America, just like every country, has its problems, except it's like probably like one of the most like how do I explain it? Like, it's just one of those countries, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, it's just one of those countries where it has so many like social and economic problems that go on every day, and there's nothing you can do about it because it has such a high population, stuff like that.
Okay.
And he needed to I guess he needed to fix that, so he decided to get into a car accident.
So I agree with the first. Also, I think like just like every avatar when he comes down suffers, right, for mankind, like Jesus did, for example. So I agree, like Baba had to do this. And even though it was predicted many years ago, and he kept, I think we talked about this last week, right? Where in India, I remember hearing the story from Marwan Merchant, who no longer is living, but when he came to visit the US, he talked about it. And he had said that, I think he was 10 years old or something. And he said that I will spill my blood in the West, and I don't know if it was America, but that Marwan actually said, why are you going to do this? Like, don't go. You're a kid, right? So if your mom or dad are saying, hey, something's going to happen to me, you're going to be scared, right? And to everyone, Baba was like their father or grandfather. So you don't want people you love to be in pain or get hurt. So that was one of the comments that I wanted to share with you guys. um Let me give me a second. Sorry guys, where are we? Okay, we are okay, let's see. Okay, here. But before we move on, I wanted to read something which is actually in the back of Lord Meher, and has some significance at the end. I couldn't find it online to put it here, but essentially, right, the route that Baba took, especially in Prague, Oklahoma, or in that portion, there was a lot of Cherokee Indian reservations, right? And historically, Baba had stopped at a few places and said, this is a very spiritual place. I think we read a little bit of that last week. Yeah, Sia, go ahead.
Actually, do you know Route 62 along with Route 66 is one of the first roads in California?
I did not know that. All right, thank you for sharing that. So I want to read this to you guys. I'm going to stop sharing screen for just a minute, and then we'll come back to this, right? It says in the back, right, these are all the footnotes that were there. Over the past 45 years since Meher Baba's accident, his lovers concluded that Oklahoma was a significant area because it lies geographically in the middle of the United States. That appears true, but it's not in the middle of the continent of North and South America, from Canada to Mexico onward, from Panama to Brazil. After reflecting upon what America represents, in Meher Baba's words, so Soham, this is where you were talking about, right? It's the greatest mixture and synthesis of the white races. Likewise, India represents the greatest mixture and synthesis of the dark races with its over 500 language divisions. In reviewing the forces at play, what make history, and namely man's lust, greed, and violence, it should be remembered that originally Indians, or at this point Native Americans, right? Back in the day, they used to be called Indians. Native Americans inhabited every part of North, Central, and South America. In North America, the native Indian tribes were fought and conquered by the European settlers to obtain their lands and riches. Between 1630 and 1800, many tribes were extinct or facing extinction, such as the Mohican, Pequot, Narang, oh, I can't even say some of these, Shawnee, and Pocono, to name a few. In May 1838, the US government forced the Cherokee Indians from their land because gold was discovered on it. The Cherokee in Georgia and North Carolina were gathered in Murphy, North Carolina, and forced to march west to resettle in Oklahoma. It appears significant after studying the land route from North Carolina to Oklahoma that Meher Baba traveled, that his route runs parallel to what is known as the Trail of Tears by Native Americans. The trail started in Murphy, North Carolina, went westward to Chattanooga, Tennessee, and then led northwest through Kentucky, Missouri, crossed into Arkansas, and ended in Oklahoma. From 1830 to 1839, 4 other Indian tribes from different areas of eastern U.S., east of Mississippi, that white settlers had fought and conquered. And so there were a bunch of tribes that were being forced to move by land or river westward to resettle in Oklahoma. Baba's route runs parallel with the river route the Native Americans traveled southwest from Mississippi to settle in Oklahoma. Unofficially, resettlement was also implied genocide. It was a death march, right? So a lot of people, when you're forced to leave, think about it, right? You're covering thousands of miles. You're going to be bound to lose a lot of people, right? Because what happens if we all say, okay, here's your, backpack, some food, now keep walking from the East Coast to the West Coast. Can we all do it? Not really, not everybody's going to make it. And remember, back in the day, there were no nice roads. It was all forest, right? So a lot of hardships compared to how we travel nowadays, right? With nice roads and everything. Any questions before I move on? Okay. The Indians of North Carolina, Georgia, and Mississippi were forced by Army soldiers to march across the country through scorching summer and freezing winter. It was estimated that 25% of the Native American population died during that one long year march. Thousands of children, women, and elders died either of starvation, heat exhaustion, or freezing before arriving in Oklahoma. At that time, Oklahoma was vast, unexplored wasteland and was originally to be the new Indian nation. As many as 67 different Indian tribes throughout North America were eventually concentrated on reservations in Oklahoma. Okay. So then afterwards, it talks about how it just became a beef industry in 1889. And there was also like major oil producing state. So, all right, I think I'm going to stop there. But I just wanted to talk about that, right? So it's really interesting that Baba followed this trail of tears. Any questions? Okay, who wants to read next? Meher? Thank you, Meher. Let me start sharing screen. That would help. Okay, it's all yours, Meher.
The ambulance and her survived, and Baba and Mira and Elizabeth were rushed to the clinic. Gohar and Rano rode with Baba and Elizabeth in the ambulance, while Mani and Meru accompanied Mira in the hearse. As the newly elected mayor of Amagar, Sarosha's status now became useful. In America, a mayor is an esteemed government official, and thus immediate arrangements were made for this visiting dignitary, and the police cooperated fully. The
Okay,
small
I'm going to
clinic.
stop you right there. I'm sorry about 1 second. So this is really interesting, right? Because right before the trip, Sarosh ended up becoming the mayor of Ahmednagar, right? Back in India. So see how like God plans stuff, right? And Baba knew, but nobody else knew what was going to happen. And then here we are at this accident, and all of a sudden you have a mayor, right? And it was treated, they got, special status and immediate arrangements were made. So just keep that in mind. Okay, go ahead.
The wait. The small clinic in Prague was quite good, privately owned and run by Dr. Ned Burslin and his wife, Julia. Although Elizabeth was the first to be brought inside, the doctor quickly saw that Mara was mostly in seriously most the most seriously injured, and so began treating her. Here is Dr. Bursland's account. The ambulance brought the victims of the accident into the hospital at about 11 a.m. It was such a mess. It took me hours to pick the pieces of broken glass, earth, and glass, earth, and grass out of their wounds stitch before I could even begin to stitch them up. It was very bloody. I did not expect Mara to live. She had suffered the worst skull fracture I've ever seen, like an eggshell dropped on the floor. I went to work on her immediately, trying to save her life. After a while, members of Baba's party began coming into the room, asking me to come and look at Baba.
Keep going. Oh, wait. Sia, did you have a question?
No, I actually
You had your
happened to,
hand raised. That's why I asked.
I actually happen to know another cause why the accident might have happened. Because at that time, I'm not sure if it was this time, there was also a earthquake or something. Like,
Okay, we'll have to research that. Okay, so keep that in mind. We'll research it later and we'll talk about it. Okay? Okay, Meher, you can continue. If there's no further
I tried to ignore them and kept working on Mira, but they became more insistent. Baba this and Baba that. Baba this and Baba that, they said. Dr. Irani also began urging me to come and see about Baba. Of course, I had no idea who Baba was and barely heard her because of the concentration on what I was doing. I didn't know what they were talking about, but finally I decided go and see what all the noise was about and entered the adjoining room where Baba has been brought. But as soon as I came in the doorway, Baba started grinning at me and smiling. So I figured he cannot be too badly hurt until I found out the extent of his injury. When I finally got around to attending to Baba, I was surprised to see an individual who was injured as badly as he was still smiling. I was also astounded to find that he did not speak a word or made any sound denoting discomfort. I assumed that he could not, but but was informed by Dr. Irani that he didn't speak because of willful act. I knew we were going to have to give him a general aesthetic to see his fractures and suspected that he would say something at that time, but he didn't. The most attractive quality of his personality that first day was the way he would look at me with those big brown eyes, as if he were reading my mind. Later, I determined that the most astounding quality was that something which made it possible for him to receive such profound devotion and loyalty from so many fine and educated people. The quality cannot be forced. Such devotion can only be possible. He deserved it because he deserved it or earned it.
Okay, so let's stop there. What do you guys think? So first of all, Mehra's like the injuries, right? I mean, do they sound like they're small injuries?
No, actually, I think they might be pretty big, even though Baba's smiling.
Yeah. How many of us smile through our aches and pains and small injuries?
When I get bruised.
Yeah, you
I
get pretty
mean,
bruised, don't you, from lacrosse? Anybody
yeah.
else? Shireen, do you have any comments? So Srinidhi, how about you guys? What do you think? So, I mean, if you saw somebody who was smiling, would you think that they were seriously injured? No. And then
No.
this doctor went and saw and he said, oh my God. And how many things were wrong with Baba, right? Here, let's find out. Shireen, would you like to read?
Yeah, sorry, my Wi-Fi wasn't working very well.
No worries. Go ahead.
Okay. Two bones of his lower left leg, his left arm at the shoulder, and the septum of his nose were broken. His upper gums were injured and bleeding from the lower dentures he was wearing at the time of the accident. Don and Erich had persuaded him to have them made before his trip to the West, and after the accident he almost never wore them again. Baba remained conscious throughout, giving instructions. For example, that it was all night for the doctor and male technicians to touch Mara. Baba was accommodated in Burleson's office. Gohar slept near him. Mara and Elizabeth were in a separate room, and Kitty and Rano looked after them. Mara was in the waiting room. Meru was in the waiting room. Sarosh sent this telegram to those in India on 24th May. Baba and ladies party. Elizabeth driving injured in motor accident. Now at Prague Hospital, Prague, Oklahoma. Details follow. The next day, this telegram was sent. Baba and ladies progressing well. All have fractured limbs and plastered casts. Will be here about 2 weeks.
So, this is pretty crazy, right? Like it's a serious, serious accident. And what's kind of scary is that Mara's skull was fractured like an egg. So I wanted to talk about that. How many of you guys have dropped an egg on the floor? How does it look?
Well, in field day we were like we had eggs, you know, the race with eggs on spoons. Yeah, and like mine slipped and fell on the grass, but like it looked, and that there's just like the yolk was just like everywhere.
Yeah, and then it cracks easy, right? So that, now compare that to, you know, her head. So yeah, go ahead.
I have honestly never dropped an egg before, but I've seen like how it does.
Mm-hmm.
When you drop it on the floor, the egg cracks and then it's just slimy everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. So think about that, okay? So wanted to point this out to you. So we're gonna keep reading. I have some videos I'd like to show you either today or maybe even next time of some of the people that were, you know, interviewed, especially like the doctor's son, etc. But there are a couple people, right? Ivy Dews, who was the Murshida of the Sufis at that time. Charmaine, remember going back last week, Charmaine wanted to drive, right? And Baba said, no, you're not driving. And Margaret, so they all came. And this is some information from Ivy's account. So who has not read? Sahana, do you want to read? Sahana?
Sorry, you froze there for a moment.
What happened?
You froze for a moment.
Okay, can you read?
Which passage?
From Sarosh.
Okay. Sarosh met us at the door of the hospital in
With Delia.
Delia?
That's her name.
I continue reading?
Yeah, continue, please.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Sahana, we can't hear you.
Okay.
Right here. They were haggard and spent.
Oh, okay. They
Wait, I already read that part.
Okay, keep reading then.
I should have taken better care of the master.
Oh, something must have happened to your audio. Did everybody hear her? No. Can you start reading from Sarosh burst into tears?
Okay, so Rose burst into tears and exclaimed, I shall have killed, I shall have to kill myself. I can never face India again. For the thousands of devotees,
Mhm.
there will all feel I should have taken better care of the master.
So why is Sarosh feeling bad? Anyone remember what happened? Sahana, why is Sarosh feeling bad? What was he supposed to do? Baba kept getting mad at him, right? Last week? Go ahead, Sia.
Last week I wasn't here, but I know what happened this week. So
Okay.
basically, Leo stopped to drink a cool drink.
Yeah, but also because he couldn't keep up with Baba, right? So obviously he's feeling really, really upset because maybe if he was there, this wouldn't have happened, right? Like you feel responsible, right? When somebody gets hurt and you couldn't be there to help them. Has that happened to you guys where you feel responsible, even though you may not have done something, you know, like say you were playing with your friend and then accidentally they tripped over and fell and broke something or hurt themselves really bad, you feel really bad, right? Like, oh my God, why did I let this happen? So that's what Sarosh is feeling right now. Okay, Sahana, do you want to continue?
I have something else. And also, in Canada, me and my neighbor were playing and he broke his hand and he broke his arm like maybe 3 times.
Oh.
And the first time or second time, I don't know, but the third time he tripped over my leg.
Uh-oh. See, you feel bad, right? Okay, so let's continue. We have actually a few more slides to get through. And I'd like to, finish this up today because then we'll have a guest next week. Okay, so go ahead, Sahana, keep reading.
Okay, I let him weep and then tried to point out that as he was not even
I think we lost you.
we
again.
went to see the patients and it was a terrible shock. His left arm just below the shoulder and the left lower leg had both bones broken,
In a jagged
were
way.
swollen.
So Sahana, I think there's something wrong with your audio. You keep going in and out. Okay, I'm gonna read this because
What?
I think there's something wrong with your audio. You keep skipping a couple words. Okay.
But I'm reading the whole paragraph.
I know, but we can't hear it for some weird reason. That's okay.
Oh.
Don't worry. Okay, I'll read it for you so we can keep going. Is that okay? All right. His face and nose were swollen from the fall. Mara had her skull fractured. Her closed eyes looked like huge red beets, and she bore an ugly wound in her forehead. Elizabeth had both arms and ribs broken as she had been pinned behind the wheel. Mehru had one fractured wrist, one badly sprained wrist, assorted cuts and bruises. Mani was the least hurt. Her feet and knees were badly scratched and limped with a cane. She did not eat for days and was overcome with grief and tormented that God had not given her as much to bear as the others, although she had recently had a severe operation. Baba took my hand and wrote on his board, "You must understand that this was all God's will and it will result in the benefit of the whole world." So guys, this is important, right? Like Baba said, you know what? Everybody was feeling so bad, but Baba said that, listen, this had to happen, right? Okay. Uh, Shireen, actually, no, Srinidhi, you want to read next? I think Shireen just read. You have to unmute, sweetheart.
Yeah, I keep forgetting to unmute. Okay. Accidentally. In the light of this, I could see there was a reason why, although he and Mehra hurled out of the right side of the car by the impact, he fell on his left side, and that it happened in the middle of the United States. Although Mr. Drews had routed his first car here and planned a different route in the road maps for Baba's car, so as to take in the Grand Canyon. I heard people say Baba must have planned it that way, but I cannot feel the master would ever plan to hurt Mehra and the others. I think he just went forth to meet his crucificial destiny for mankind's sake. Poor Baba could have been put in a cot in the doctor's office, and he not only was in such pain, but could barely breathe because his head was swollen with little blood clots from the fall. Each time we entered, he would, out of delicacy of our feelings, throw a kerchief over his face to show his eyes. Framed with his flowing hair, they looked indeed the eyes of Christ. Rana or Sarosh or Goher would sit at the head of the cot and let their backs be used as headboards for Baba to sit up against hour after hour. Delia and I sent cables and tried to look after Mani, helped feed the patients. But Katie could not be pried away from the room where Elizabeth and Mara were, except to take a bath. She stayed at her post night and day, stretching out between beds in the middle of the night for a short while on the floor. Delia and I helped with the feeding, rushing out for coffee and sandwiches. Sherman was asked by Baba to do the laundry for him, and Mara, everything was covered with blood.
Okay, you can continue.
After a few days, Baba gave instructions to Ivy and Sherman. With great difficulty, since one arm was completely useless, Ivy described, he spelled it on the board. Now, for you two, I have this important mission that you must go immediately to San Francisco, see each of your group people, and tell them about this accident, which was purely by God's and Baba's will. This had happened by God's will, and the result by God's will be good for the world. So explain this to each one of your group. Ivy and Sharman instructed to personally convey this to Malcolm, Agnes Barone, Mildred Kyle, and John Bess, and then returned to Myrtle Beach on 10th July, further informing those two on the West Coast. Baba is definitely coming in July 1953, and your waiting for these months will bear better fruit.
Okay, thank you. So again, going back to this, right? Baba kept saying this had to happen, right? So this is really important. I'm gonna, I don't know if I want to really skip some of this, but like this is, I'll kind of sum this up, right? Because it's really cute. Like even though Baba was there to take care, you know, in the middle of the night, Baba would say, "Oh, I'm in pain," and then they would go get the doctor because everything was at his clinic, and I'm sure it was like attached to it. So he would come in, and then as soon as he would come, Baba would put a big smile and say, "You know what? I feel much better now that you're here." So this kept happening back and forth a few times. You know, but again, think about it, right? You're plastered for some time, and it was really crazy. I want to say that they basically went back after 2 weeks, and Baba literally was in the ambulance, right, from Prague, a distance of 1,500 miles. And they did not stop, from what I believe. Like they kept going. Can you imagine being in an ambulance and going virtually like it was nonstop? And on the 8th, they reached Myrtle Beach. And that's where they were recovering. So that's crazy, right? Like, can you imagine not stopping for 1,500 miles? I want you guys to read this because this is the doctor's point of view. So, Soham, would you be able to read for us, please?
Yeah.
Okay.
As mentioned, Dr. Burleson was highly impressed by Baba and recorded some of his thoughts in a letter to Baba dated 3rd June 1952. From you and your party, we have seen a demonstration of most of the teachings of Christ. Many Americans preach these things, but we have never observed so close an application of them. The profound devotion to you, which is demonstrated by all your party, convinces us that you deserve all of it. Such devotion cannot be forced, it can be obtained by love. And to have that demonstrated affection to them from so many wonderful people is almost unbelievable. We are not accustomed to dealing with people who appreciate our efforts as you do. And the manifestation of that appreciation leaves us very humble, with the feeling that we do not deserve it because we realize that limitations and because we realize our limitations and faults. Therefore, instead of efforts being classed as work, they seemed a pleasure. Before leaving Prague, Baba gave Dr. Burleson a silver cigarette case, which Sarosh had purchased in Oklahoma City. Sarosh also sent the Burlesons a leopard skin. A few years later, Baba mailed the doctor a signed copy of God Speaks. Dr. Burleson's wife, Julia, would send money a Christmas card every year and correspond with her.
So this started the friend, right, and relationship. You want to continue reading the next one, Soham?
Sure. Okay, so
I think I just talked about this, right? How he won their hearts and how he would come in the middle of the night. Basically, Soham, if you want to continue reading the second portion, that'll be good.
Okay. Baba's ways are beyond our understanding, said Age. From his infinite knowledge, he worked for everyone and employed methods according to each one's needs. How fortunate was Dr. Burleson to have been chosen to treat the God-man in his close circle.
So let's talk about that. Do you guys think Dr. Burleson was lucky and fortunate?
Yeah.
Yeah. Think about it, right? How often do you get to treat the avatar of the age, the God-man? Okay, so Ayan, could you read the next slide, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
On Friday, June 13, 1952, Baba, you're supposed to say dedicated?
Dictated.
Dictated the following message for his lovers around the world. Personal disaster, for some reason foretold by me, has last happened while crossing the American continent, causing me to facial injuries, a broken leg, a broken arm, and much mental and physical suffering. It was necessary that it should happen in America. God willed it to. It brings fruition from the parts of the fruition, the first part of the circular, which said until July 10th, the complicated free life, weakness would dominate strength and bindings would dominate freedom. But from July 10th, in my full free life, strength would dominate weakness and freedom would dominate bindings. And then from November 15th, my fiery free life, both strength and weakness, freedom and bindings, would be consumed in the fire of divine love.
Okay. We're on the last slide. Who would like to read? Shireen, would you like to read?
Yeah, sure. On Friday, 13th June 1952, Baba dictated. Meher Baba's complicated free life came to an end on Thursday, 10th July 1952, the anniversary of Baba's keeping silence. Baba himself composed the following lines that day: bruised and battered, but not beaten. Baba greets us July 10th. Freedom dominating binding. Weakness overcome by strength. As Age noted, it is significant that the complicated free life ended in America as bindings overcame Baba's life there. These bindings were America's, which assaulted and wounded the Avatar, and which Meher Prabhu uprooted by enduring. It was these bindings which made Baba's free life complicated. The world will know its result when America blows to at God's feet. To do that, Baba purposefully suffered and bore the assault of these bindings, because he had a special mission to fulfill for America. This work was extremely extensively there, and its rays will shine forth over America, like the welcome rays from the rising sign on the horizon.
So what do you guys think about all of this that we just read? I really want to have, I know we only have like a couple more minutes left, but I really want each one of your opinions because I think this is very significant. Shireen, since you were reading, can we start with your opinion?
Sorry, what was the question?
I would like to have a quick discussion. What do you guys think of all the stuff that you've been reading for the last 2 weeks?
I think it's like something we should know because like that was a major event in like the Avatar's work, I guess, like during the time.
How does it make you feel reading all of this?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's pretty like like the book, what we just read.
All right.
Sometimes fine.
Oh, sorry. What about Ian? You just joined us today. How does this make you feel?
I mean, I think that this is probably the most interesting topic we've talked about.
Okay. How does it make you feel that, you know, people were suffering and then like say Money, she was feeling bad that, you know, she didn't suffer as much as everybody else. Do you guys feel like that? His sister, Money, remember?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because she got the least of injuries.
Yeah, she got the least of injuries and like she felt like Baba was like great.
Yeah, and she's like, why didn't I mean, they're competing to, you know, for suffering, I guess, right? How many of you guys compete to suffer? Or do you compete for happiness? Like, how many of you say, hey, my friend has X, Y, and Z, how come I don't have it? Or do you say, oh my God, my friend is so sad. How come I'm not so sad, right? Like, it's complete opposite. How many of us do that? Sia, you want to say something?
I think I'm mixed feeling.
Yeah, okay. Srinidhi, what about you? How does all of this make you feel?
I feel like it's good to know because like I've learned a lot of new interesting facts that I didn't know. Yeah, it feels good to just like know more about Meher Baba's life.
Okay. Soham?
Honestly, it's not the most interesting topic, and it's not very entertaining, but it's good to learn about because we can learn what kind of suffering people went through and what kind of suffering Baba went through to help, you know, the world.
Right. And then what about when, you know, like for example, Kitty, you know, she was in between Mehra and Elizabeth, right? Like staying there with them the entire time, you know, probably not even sleeping because they were trying to take care, or people holding up Baba's cot with their backs so that he could have, you know, like that's just crazy. Like how many of us do that? to even your family members, right? How many of you, or your best friends, if your best friends are suffering, how many of you guys are there helping them? I mean, I know you're still kids, but this is something that I feel like we could learn from, because these people went to such extent to take care of them, right? And that's what the doctor was saying, that he'd never seen anybody live the words of Christ, right? Where he said, help your neighbor, right? I mean, or because it's just so much love and affection, right? And what do you guys do most of the time if somebody says, hey, Srinidhi, can you go do the dishes or something? We all whine, right? We all whine to work, right? Ourselves included. But then here are people who are like jumping at the opportunity to go help one another. So to me, the story is very deeply touching. Angela, you were a part of the Heartland Center, right?
Yes.
Would you like to share anything, like being a part of the whole? I believe we're going to have Pamela come next week and
Oh,
talk a little bit
great.
more about it. So if you'd like to join, it would be wonderful.
We'll see if I have the time. But I will say that when I was on the board, it was a requirement of all the board members to meet there at the anniversary. And we'd have a board meeting, and we'd have a whole weekend of working on the little center, and then we'd have discussion in the afternoons. And so going out to the accident site would always be a little bit of a surprise. I mean, it took all day to travel there, Even coming from New York, you'd have to transfer flights and, all your baggage and all, how it is to travel. It's not like a single flight, and it's not that easy, and it would just, this is not even as far as India, and there's no direct flights, you know what I mean? At that time anyway. Or they were expensive. I don't remember exactly. But anyway, it was always just, such a slog. And I'd think ahead like, oh, it's going to be so much trouble and so hard and such an effort. And then I'd get there, and even Cliff came a couple of times, and we'd get to the accident site, and it just felt like, how could you possibly not want to do this? It just felt like the pull is there. There's an energy there. There's a lot of emotion around this story, and you see the actual place. And I can't say that I'm the sort of person that feels stuff, I don't feel like energy and whatever, but there definitely is something very powerful about this spot. I had one person describe it as almost like the other end of the samadhi, like as if the two parts of the planet were connected as one pole, because that experience of Baba, the tomb is kind of celebrating in a way, right? The dropping of Baba's body, in other words, his humanity, that God came in human form. And this accident was kind of that other pole where the accident site also has that kind of feeling.
Yeah. I know next week we'll concentrate on, looking at the site and watch some videos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was just interesting. Sahana, what about you? What do you think?
Well, it's a very, I would say like a very powerful topic, maybe. Like, I just don't have a word really to describe it.
Okay.
Like, it's kind of weird, but like, it's more like, he did it for a purpose, because obviously he wanted to shed blood in the US. So, I think that's the reason,
Yeah.
right?
How many of us are scared of injections?
I used to cry. I used to scream. Like, I used to, but now I don't. I'm like, okay, that was
do.
So now think about that, right? We're scared of an injection, and then here's Baba willingly shedding his blood for America, for our, you know, benefit, I guess. Anybody else who didn't get to talk about how they felt, Meher? I think you didn't, right? And Sia? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so let's quickly talk about it because then we have to let Effort and Grace take on. So we'd love to hear your thoughts and hope to see you next week because we're going to talk about this more.
Okay. Basically, what I learned about this is that this is actually a good lesson if you something like time, you have to keep up with time.
Okay. Meher? What about
Basically, I'm telling it the perspective from Saroj's because it's kind of like he never respected the time when Baba was going and he stopped and got a cool drink. So maybe if we hadn't done that, then this whole thing wouldn't have happened.
That's interesting. Or the fact that maybe he would have been there sooner, right? Yeah, because he kept getting into trouble with Baba. Baba would yell at him saying, why aren't you keeping up with me? I've told you so many times to drive faster, right? So you know what? I love hearing you guys because I wasn't even focused on that. So thank you so much for bringing that up. So maybe next time your parents or someone says, hey, do this now, there's a perspective, right? Meher, go ahead.
It's very interesting to learn the time of how Baba got through all of this.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Like it's very difficult for like Baba to like risk. It's kind of like emotional, like how Baba risked his life for others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But like he did it either way because that was his task.
Very nice. Well, thank you guys for sharing. I hope I didn't miss anyone. Jai Baba, see you all next week, same time, hopefully maybe earlier. I don't know. I'll let you know. So thank you so much, Angela, for sharing your thoughts. Have a great rest of the week, guys. Happy Mother's
Baba.
Day for everyone who is a mom here. And you know, also, I really wanted to celebrate Shireen Mai, but we're on this topic, so maybe we'll do that next month. Mother's Day can be every weekend.
That's
right?
right.
Jai Baba Shilpa. Jai Baba Angela.
Hey, Baba.
Jai Baba.
Hey
Happy
Baba,
Mother's
Jai
Day.
Baba, bye.
Happy Mother's Day to you all.
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy
Baba.
Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
There's Jeff. He's
Yeah, Baba.
muted.
Jai Baba.
Yeah, you kids are